Julie,
welcome.
Are you a fan of 80s music?
Sure, why not?
So you're just making crap up again.
Of course he is.
So you're not, is what you're saying.
Oh, sure, there's some good songs in the 80s.
Wow.
What is it?
Good call there, Andrew.
What is the go-to on your MP3 player?
The 80s.
See, there you go.
Wow.
But she doesn't like it.
Let's quit while we're ahead on this one. Let's move to some great stories you sent out this week, Julie.
Hey.
Yeah, Julie.
Where do you want to start here?
Gosh, these crazy people, they're keeping me busy.
Yeah, we should stay. We're here in Washington, D.C. area. We're in Northern Virginia. We're close to Maryland. And something that you and Lenore Skenazy have been talking about, this unbelievable stuff with these with parents and the threats of prosecution and arrest over kids walking to the park or staying in the park or walking down the street. I kind of am at a disadvantage because the rest of you guys have children and I don't. But I see this as a non-parent, and I just wonder how you guys do it.
Yeah, it's really frightening. And let me just give you, the listeners, some background here. In Maryland, some parents let their kids, a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old, walk home less than a mile from their house, from a park close to their house to their home. And again, it's less than a mile, and they let these kids walk to and from the park. They've grown up in this neighborhood. They're very familiar with this neighborhood. Let them walk home by themselves. And some concerned person called the police. The police pulled over, picked up the kids, and took the kids home. Social services was called, and these people are facing possible prosecution. There's been a fund set up. I will, after I'm on the show, I will send out the link to that fund I have given, and I suggest other people do, because this is the kind of thing we're seeing now. And I've talked about this before. This is a battle between the free-range movement, and, Lenore Skenazy is the founder of this movement, which is letting your kids, and knowing your kids, the free-range movement doesn't say every kid needs to walk home by themselves. What she says is, Lenore Skenazy, the founder of this program, she says, look, know your kids. She's not suggesting if you've got a kid who's nervous or scared or can't tell, left from right to make them walk home by themselves. She's saying, but if you have a child who feels confident to walk by themselves, knows all the rules, then by all means let them. And so this is really a battle between those parents who want to give their kids more freedom and helicopter parents. And, sort of helicopter parents are those that sort of hover over your children, waiting for every possible thing to harm them and to protect their kids. And what the problem, I don't mind that there's different sort of theories and beliefs in how to raise your kids, but it seems like the helicopter parents seem to be telling on or calling the cops.
But most importantly, Julie, the helicopter parents are the ones driving the policy and the political process
Exactly
to harm
right.
and taking the choice away from the free range parents. I mean, this is something that I moved to Williamsburg about 7 months ago, and to us, Colonial Williamsburg presents a perfect opportunity for us to let our kids have a little bit of that freedom. And so I actually got into a rather heated conversation with my mother-in-law about this very issue, about letting my kids go over to the William and Mary campus if they want to go and play, or over into CW. And my younger daughter loves the William and Mary bookstore, and she will spend hours in there if she could.
That's great.
So,
look, and again, you're making these decisions because you know your kids, and you're basing it on each child, and that is what the free-range movement is about: is know your child and make decisions based on that child. What the government nannies want us to do is have a one-size-fits-all, and this is true of everything: health care, how to feed our kids. I mean, everything is. It's not parents basing decisions based on each individual child and having a good relationship with that child. It's handing it over and kind of ceding these responsibilities to the government. So it's kind of in line with that. This is extremely disturbing, though, because these parents are going to face visits from the social worker and visits from social services, and this is really, really scary. So it's an outrageous story out of Maryland. We'll be following it. Obviously, Lenore Skenazy will be following it. She's written endlessly on this, the New York Times, the Washington Post, National Review. It's amazing what she's been doing. So she's another good person to follow on this story.
Do you think, Julie, that the reason that this has gotten, a lot of the stories that you cover and that we talk about in the show are stories that you cover and we talk about in the show because for some reason, people aren't seeing these stories and they're hard to get people behind. I guess I don't know why. I mean, some of the stuff that you cover is so unbelievable.
Yeah.
The school lunch thing, I think, has taken off. But a lot of the stuff that you talk about, people just kind of put up with. And I don't understand it. But I think something about this story, I've seen it in more places than normal. More of the mainstream media are covering stories like this, and I think because kind of analogous to what we were talking about earlier with these police protests, people are just tired of it, and they just have grown. They've grown weary of the whole thing, and they want to find a way to fight back.
Yeah, there was a case. Look, you're absolutely right, Cameron. This is not just happening. This is not. Sometimes when you hear some outrageous story, and you just know it's okay. This is not the norm, right? I mean, and
right.
The media covers it, and it's kind of silly. This is actually becoming much more normal. I mean, I wrote about a case of McDonald's manager. She was this. God, it was such a sad story. She was a single mom, and her daughter, she didn't have child care for her daughter over the summer, so she would let her come to the McDonald's, and eventually she let her play at the park with a cell phone. The little girl was 9 years old, totally capable. She had a cell phone. She knew to call her mom if anything went wrong. And sure enough, the police came. They scoop up the little girl. They arrest the mother. She was fired from McDonald's, later to be reemployed by McDonald's when the whole thing blew up. But again, this is a case of, are you kidding me? This mother is letting her child go outside, get fresh air, get exercise. Aren't we supposed to be doing that too? I mean, these same nannies, these same people who wag their finger are the ones who say you shouldn't let your kids stay inside, a latchkey kid, or stay inside all day, or just eat food and sit down and watch TV. I mean, here is a parent who's doing the right thing. She trusts her daughter to call her if there's a problem. And so again, it's a real battle between these two camps. And unfortunately, one is actually facing possible prosecution. Yeah. So we need to really voice our concerns about this.
And Julie, I mean, we all know what the end result is. What they want is 24-hour child care paid for by the state. It's out of the parents' hands. Midnight basketball leagues, and all of this stuff sort of taken out of it, and creating essentially, honestly, a permanent underclass.
Yes.
No, we have to. You're absolutely right. We have to let parents trust their instincts in terms of how they work with their kids.
Absolutely, it's the most important thing. And you're right. I mean, we see it starting. At schools now, you can get breakfast at school. There's early drop-off. There's aftercare. There's dinner served in schools. And, it goes on and on and on. And there really is an effort to strengthen the role of the government in children's lives and to weaken the relationship between parents and children. That is precisely the wrong thing to do. I mean, I hate people who point to one thing and say, oh, the childhood obesity problem is caused because of sugar or soda or this or that. But one thing that is really important that we consider is the relationship between parents and children. It has the weakening of that relationship has contributed to the problem with child nutrition in this country. And so we have to examine those issues along with the other issues, which unfortunately in Washington, that relationship between parents and children, it's so often not examined.
Julie, I wanted to ask you, you had an article, you sent us an article also, milk does not cause cancer. A tweet that came across my tweet deck yesterday, and I'm trying to find it right now. This story, it was on WNEW, the news station. It was about, you would know better than I did, Virginia, someone in Richmond is talking about allowing for unpasteurized milk to be sold. Are you up on this story?
Yeah, I am. It's the raw milk debate.
The raw milk debate.
Freedom. Yeah.
I mean, my whole question is, why are we still talking about this in 2015? I mean, seriously, this whole thing about raw milk,
raw milk cheese. I mean, this is a big issue.
Right?
Yeah,
No, I know it's an issue, but
it's a big issue, and I actually really struggle with it. I actually put a blog up that, boy, did they get mad at me because. And let me tell you, just wait. The raw milk people are going to jump all over my butt on Twitter in a few minutes because look, I get it's a big libertarian issue. It's a big sort of food freedom issue. And look, I ran a program at IWF called Women for Food Freedom. So I have real trouble with this because look, there's some real danger that goes along with raw milk. It is a truly really complicated issue, and I think you have to look at the rates of infection of foodborne illnesses from raw milk as opposed to pasteurized milk. What bothers me about the raw milk movement is, along with sort of promoting raw milk, is often it is a cure-all. It cures everything from every allergy to autism to cancer.
Just parodying on the show Portlandia, in fact.
Yeah, I can't stand that kind of stuff. And there's absolutely zero discussion about the real risks that go along with feeding a child raw milk. So look, I think people should have the right to have raw milk, but I wish there was a more honest discussion of it. I really can't stand these peddlers of raw milk who, like I said, are weeping because of how wonderful it is. And again, absolute silence on the true dangers of it. There is high rates of infection because of it, and I think giving it to children is dangerous.
All right, last question, Julie. Something that we talked about yesterday on the show. We had Valinda Rowe on, and she's been a friend of the show for a long time. She's with Illinois Carry, and she noticed in a textbook some very incorrect information about the Second Amendment.
Sure.
And she wrote a letter to the school, to the actual the publisher.
Good.
And she actually got a response. I'll read it to you now. It says, Valinda, we are working on a Second Amendment insert expanding the discussion and details around this topic. The insert will go with new orders for our book until our next edition is available and will be sent to teachers who have purchased the book within the last 12 months. We appreciate your help in improving our explanation, which will aid in the teaching of the Constitution. Now, the reason I bring that up is A, I think it's cool that someone was responsible like that, and B, a lot of the times people hear stories like the raw milk debate or the moms and the park debate, and they never hear a good outcome.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just, listen, everyone's got their lives to live, and a lot of people just don't get involved.
Yeah,
this proves that getting involved, writing a letter, writing a simple email, you can change, you can fight City Hall.
You're absolutely right. I don't know if we have. I won't go on very long, but I think you brought up such a good point, and that's why I do what I do. I think debunking a lot of the scaremongering stories that are out there, pushing back on some of this food alarmism and everything's going to kill you. I think that sometimes people just need to see one published story, one blog report that kind of says, hey, really, can everybody calm down? And sometimes it really changes their mind and sort of sets their mind straight. And that's what we really try to do. We just want to tell women that, look, I know it seems scary, it's tough to raise kids, but calm down. Things are not as bad as they seem. And there is a reason why the left peddles so much fear. It's profitable and it works to make you go, maybe we do need government intervention. When we point that out to women, it really changes. I think it really changes the debate in their minds.
Julie Gunluck, thank you so much for what you do every day. Great stuff as usual.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay.